This is another one in my series of videos about why it doesn't benefit women to have casual sex right away with strangers. Now, when I talk about these topics, I'm not speaking of being in a relationship with someone. When we're in a relationship with someone, we definitely have to be aware of each other's sexual needs. That's a different situation. I'm speaking here of sex with complete strangers and early dating. And also, I'm not speaking of someone you already know. For example, you know about these high school sweethearts. They know each other from class and from hanging out with their friends. And after many months of knowing each other, they go on a date. And of course, then they already know each other. And it makes more sense that they're going to start kissing and making out. Or someone that you've worked with, or someone that you know well already. I'm not speaking of that. I'm speaking of people having sex with complete strangers. And there's a lot of pressure on women to be very sexually accessible early on to men. And I do not think that it benefits women. And most women don't want to do that. And I don't want to do that. Even though I love sex and I wrote a book called The Fuck List and I was a former escort, I am speaking from the space of a woman and being in a woman's body. And on this particular video, I want to say that in early dating, we don't really know this guy. This is a guy who wouldn't even visit you in the hospital if you were sick. Okay? But you're going to have sex with him. This is a guy who doesn't even know what positions you like. This is a guy who probably isn't going to make sure you even have an orgasm. This is a guy who's very likely to disappear after you had sex. And this is a guy who probably isn't that good in bed anyway. And what I want to say, though, is that you're not responsible for his sexual needs. You are not responsible for the sexual needs of a complete stranger. But a lot of men will make you feel that way. They're going to pressure you, or you're going to feel obligated. But you're not responsible for his sexual needs. If he wants to date you, fine, let him get his sex elsewhere. He's perfectly free to get sex elsewhere, and you should not be possessive of him. If you're not in a relationship with this guy, let him go and get his sex elsewhere. But often they don't want to because it's too much work, and it's easier to pressure and manipulate you than for them to get it elsewhere. But they do. Men are very capable of doing something that I think women aren't. When we start to get interested in a guy, we don't want to kiss other guys or have sex with other guys. Yeah. But men are very capable of this. Many men can start a dating relationship with a woman. I've met men over the years, so many men like this. They can be dating a woman, interested in a woman, early dating. They haven't had sex with this woman yet, but they're off having sex with other women still. They're able to compartmentalize it like that. So date a guy who can get women. Okay? A lot of these guys can get women. They're courting one woman. They don't want to push for sex with this woman because they really like her. So they have their hookups going elsewhere. That's totally fine, and no woman should have a problem with that. Okay? You should have no problem with that. Likewise, I think when people are married, if you cut off your husband for sex, he should be able to get it elsewhere. I do not believe in forcing people into celibacy because that's very controlling and manipulative in my opinion. But let's get back to early dating. You're not responsible for this man's sexual needs. Now, a lot of men will pressure you, or they'll be like, well, I'm paying for this and that. Well, don't pay, buddy. I do not think that a man should be paying for on early dates. Because he's setting himself up to be used, and now he's trying to manipulate you into sex to make sure that it's transactionally equivalent. Early dating should be about, do I even like this person? Do I find you interesting? Do we have anything in common? Do we enjoy each other's company? Unless you're specifically just looking for hookups. The way that a man can tell that a woman isn't using him is two things. Number one is he's not paying for dates. Maybe he's paying for an ice cream cone or a coffee or something. Maybe the next time she pays. He's not paying for dates. This thing about men paying for dates, chivalry, you do you if you want, but I think it mixes things up. It makes men feel like they're entitled to sex, or it makes women feel obligated to sex. And it puts people into these roles of the man with the money and the helpless woman who needs to be paid for. I think it really upsets the equality and the power balance when you're getting to know someone. Like, if you really like someone, you want to buy them a gift and take them out, that's one thing. But you don't know this woman. Why are you spending money on this woman? Because you want something in return. You want to impress her, or you're hoping for sex. So that's manipulative. Okay, so this is how guys make sure they don't get used by women. Number one, don't pay for things. Don't bring her food. Don't pay for things. Keep your wallet closed. Number two, don't let yourself be used as a listening pod for all of her complaints, all of her problems, all of her issues. Your early dates should be fun. They should be interesting. They should be fun. There shouldn't be any drama. You showing up to lend her an ear just so that you can eventually, she will realize that you're a better guy than her last boyfriend or her current boyfriend. You're setting yourself up to be used. So don't do that. And I just really think if a man can't go out with a woman just to enjoy her company, that's not a man worth dating, in my opinion. And sometimes women think all they're good for is sex, especially women who are sexually abused. They will lead with sex because they think that's all they're good for, or they think that the man will not want to date them if they don't. So it's really inauthentic, and it really is a really bad way to start a relationship, because what are you going to do when the sex is done? It doesn't last that long. Now I want to tell you a few other things that are really work against women when it comes to these hookup situations. In a typical hookup situation, the man expects the woman to have the birth control. They don't want to wear a condom. But even if they do, a lot of them will complain about the condom, but they might wear the condom. But a man is never going to take hormonal birth control the way that he expects a lot of women to do. So number one, he's going to expect you to do the birth control, but maybe let's just assume he wears a condom. And that takes care of number two. A woman is more likely to get an STD when he ejaculates inside of her. So definitely, if you are hooking up, make sure that the man is wearing a condom, ladies. Always wears a condom every single time. Unless you are in a monogamous relationship, he wears a condom. And this is just motherly advice. You can do what you want. This is my advice. There is no benefit to a woman of letting some random stranger ejaculate inside of her vagina. No benefit at all. A lot of benefit to him. That's why they want to do it. It benefits him. It doesn't benefit you. And you carry a lot of risks. Number two, when these guys are hooking up, they're going to climax. They're going to have an orgasm from the blowjob, from the fucking or whatever. And the woman has a huge chance of not having an orgasm at all. And not that orgasm is the only way to measure pleasure. The woman is less likely to enjoy the sex. Because for us, the sex is better if we're relaxed, if we're trusting, if we feel safe, if we have an emotional connection with the guy already. So he's going to enjoy the sex a lot more than you are. And he's almost guaranteed to have an orgasm, and you're almost guaranteed not to have an orgasm. Okay? This is a guy that doesn't even know what you like. He's just a stranger. So he's going to enjoy it more. Number three, there's a huge chance that a guy that's just fucking you is going to disappear after he's fucked you. Or maybe he'll come around at 11 o'clock at night when he wants to fuck you again. And if you're okay, and most women are not okay with that. Most women are having sex with guys they like, and they think it might lead into something, and it usually won't. The chances are that it won't, so then you have to think, am I going to be okay with just having sex with this guy one time, and he's going to blow me off? And after he comes, he's going to come to his senses and be like, oh my God, what have I done? I have to get out of here, and never see you again. Or only see you again the next time he wants a booty call. So are you okay with that? That's what you have to consider. The sex isn't going to be very good. You're likely to just be a booty call. And then how are you going to feel about yourself after? Is it really worth it for the 5 minutes of whatever he did? And most guys are really not that good in bed. It's usually very disappointing. And so for all these reasons, you know, the guy's going to love it because he's out there to sling his dick wherever he can, a lot of guys. He's going to come and he's going to move on because he got what he wanted. And this is why I think that it doesn't benefit women to just have hookups. It benefits the guys a lot, and not all guys. I mean, there are men who only want sex in a relationship, but you don't know what kind this guy is till you get to know him. You don't know because they put on the charm and all that. And I think that some women really do like that during sex, a man is very connected, very into you, very tuned in, seems to really care about you. That's how they are sexually. And I call it the turtle. The turtle is a guy who's emotionally walled off. He's like this. But when it comes to sex, he feels comfortable and he can be sensual and he can be connected. And this can be married men too, by the way. That's the only time they feel safe to be tender and sensual and present with you and look at you and be with you. And then as soon as the sex is over, they don't want to cuddle, they don't want to talk, they just want to get up and leave, roll over and go to sleep, get up, take a shower, get dressed and go home. Go back in their shell. And so that's another thing. Women are having sex sometimes just for that little burst of intimacy that the man is only giving you during sex. And some guys don't even give it to you during sex. They're walled off during sex. They're always in a shell. So, you know, when I wrote the book, The Fuck List, I was exploring my sexuality. I had a specific goal in mind of exploring my sexuality. And I will tell you, it was disappointing. I found out that none of these guys could really give me what I really wanted to experience. And I kept thinking, well, one of these guys will become a relationship so I can really have good sex. That's really where, for me, the sex would be the best. But none of them turned out that way. Maybe because I was going for these really young guys, I don't know. And the older guys were not good in bed. I'm like, I never want to fuck you again. This was like lame, boring, lame, not good. And so I just think that women need to consider, am I going to enjoy the sex? Am I going to be glad that I did this? And am I doing this because I feel obligated? And sometimes women do. It's easier to say yes to a guy and than to tell him no and get into an argument. Sometimes women think it's easier to just say yes. But remember, this is a guy that wouldn't even visit you in the hospital if you were sick. He wouldn't care. Men can use you as an ejaculation device, and they bring on all their charm and their sensuality, and they fool us women into thinking they like us, but they don't. So that's just what I want to say. There's a lot more in it for a man. That's why they want to do it. They're going to have an orgasm, and it's going to be super fun, and then they're going to move on. Whereas we as the women are going to be like, well, I didn't have an orgasm. It really didn't feel that good. I kind of feel used. And this wasn't that great. It was disappointing in the end. So that's why I think that women should either have sex in a relationship or they should charge for it. Let the guy pay. Okay, let him pay you. Let him pay a sugar baby. Let him pay a stripper or a hooker or whatever he wants. If he wants no strings attached sex, I think men should pay for it. Because I did a little research recently, and I was looking at the going rates for hookers, escorts, in different U.S. cities. And the rates are like $600 to $1,000 an hour. Some ladies charging less. And you're going to just give him your pussy for a dinner he paid for? Come on. You do not realize how valuable your sexual services are. Now, in a relationship, that's different. Women, we have sex because we want to sexually bond with our partner or have some intimacy with our partner, or we already trust this person. I'm talking about early hookups. You're not responsible for this man's sexual release. He can find his own hookup girl. He can go on Tinder. He can go out to a bar. He can pick up a woman somewhere. He can go pay for it. You're not responsible. And what I really want ladies to pay attention to is, am I having sex because I want to and I'm ready? Or am I doing it to please him? Or because I feel responsible for his unmet sexual needs? Is he manipulating me into making me feel responsible? Like it's all my fault that he's horny? It's not. He's an adult. You're not responsible for this man's sexual needs. When we're in a relationship with people, we do take on more responsibility for each other and more empathy for each other. But again, I'm talking about guys you don't know. So I hope you have liked this video on why it doesn't benefit women to hook up. And Happy New Year again.